So today we have verses 10 to 16 of the first section and the first subsection of Kathopanishad lined up with us. I will start with verse number 10. So it reads, Shant Sankalpah Sumanah Yatha Syat Veet Manyu Gautamah Ma Abhi Mrityayo Tvat Prasrishtham Ma Abhivedat Pratit Etat Trayanam Prathamam Varam Vrine. So the verse translates to, this is Nachiketa asking his first boon. So he says, Nachiketa says, when I am sent back to you, O death, my father, from the clan of Gotham, be calm, peaceful, and cheerful to see me, and be free from anger towards me. May he recognize me and receive me with affection. This is the first of the three boons that I seek. So let's take this up word by word. Shant Sankalpaha. So is of a peaceful uh, uh, demeanor. So we are translating it to is pacified. Sumana is kind. Yatha Syat may be, so referring to his father. Veeth Manyu, free from anger. Gautam is the clan name of Nachiketa. Mami, Abhi, towards. Mrityao is how he is addressing the god of death. And Nachiketa is calling Yam, Mrityao, old god of death. Thwat, by you. Prasrishtham, sent away or released. Mami, Abhivedat, may receive with affection. Pratit, recognize me as a son. Etat, this. Trayanam, of the three. Prathamam, first. Varam, boon. Vrine, I seek. So, when I'm sent back by you, O death, my father from the clan of Gotham, be calm, peaceful, and cheerful to see me, and be free from anger towards me. May he recognize me and receive me with affection. This is the first of the three boons that I seek. So let's read together. Shant Sankalpah Sumanah Yatha Sayat Veet Manyu Gautamah Nachiketa Ma Abhimrityo Tvat Prasrishtham Ma Abhivedat Pratit Etat Trayanam Prathamam Varam Vrine. So, as we will see in today's session and even the next session, that in asking the three boons, Nachiketa is very wise and logical. He starts with the easiest request, which can be granted easily. And so it builds the confidence of both the giver and the seeker. And then he gradually moves on to more and more difficult boons. And the most difficult boon, he reserves it for the last, his third boon. So this verse is listing his first boon. So it seems simple. We've already read it. But if you just think and analyze this boon, you will realize that in asking his first boon, Nachiketa has asked for a lot of things. And these are that he will return from death to the land of living. First thing, he will return to the same family as the same boy that he was. Second thing, third, his father and family will accept the situation as a natural course of events. So, they will take it in their stride that this was the person who had left or who was dead and is now alive. This is natural and happening. So they will not be agitated by the sequence of events. And therefore, Nachiketa is, of course, specifically asking for his father to be calm, peaceful, and cheerful when he sees Nachiketa. So essentially, the family will take him back as he was when he had left, right? So he's not an imposter or a superhero or is not a ghost. that has come back to haunt them. So they will not view him like this. And of course, he is most concerned about the anger of his father. He does not want his father to have any anger towards Nachiketa, because we just recollected that Nachiketa at the time of the sacrifice, just before he left, was actually pestering his father that whom are you going to send me to? So this is the literal translation of the verse. Now, spiritual interpretation of the verse can be as follows. Let's see, we all go through at times, I mean, okay, maybe some of us don't, but when we go through a very harrowing or a death-like experience, we are just there, or we are in very extremely difficult situation, and we overcome that situation and we return, or we are successful in overcoming the situation. Once we come back from facing our challenges, we are transformed people. We have a different attitude. And therefore, and then we see the world, we start looking at the world in a very different manner, which gradually wears off as our conditioning returns, by functioning in the world. However, a wise person also undergoes maybe these experiences, but his conditioning, worldly conditioning, does not return once he's transformed, because of the knowledge that he has retained. So, the wise person will continue to live in the world and enjoy the world, but without attachment, hate, and sorrow that we had discussed in Ish Upanishad verses 6 and 7, and we had discussed in detail in Bhagavad Gita. So, the wise person enjoys everything that comes his or her way and remains free from attachment or greed, does his or her obligatory actions, and moves on. So, such a person is what? He's mastered the senses and has practiced self control, and then moves around and interacts in the world. So, the world does not agitate the person, and also the converse is true. The person does not agitate the world. And this, you may recollect, was one of the qualities of the bhaktas that we did in chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. So, this is the spiritual interpretation that we can interpret from this verse, that even after Nachiketa going through these experiences, returns to the world, he is able to function with other people normally. So, this is the spiritual meaning. Now, this was an easy boon that Nachiketa had asked for. So, Lord Yama graciously grants the boon and says, Yatha purastat bhavita pratit औधालिकी आरुणि मथ प्रसृष्टः सुखम रात्रि शयेता वीतमन्यु त्वाम दृश्यवान मृत्युमुखात् pramuktam. So, Lord Yam grants the boon and says, after seeing you released from the jaws of death, your father, Adhaliki Aruni, will recognize you and be toward you as he was before you left. He will be free from anger and he will sleep peacefully at night for the rest of his life, is implied. So let's take this up word by word. Yatha, as. Purastat, before. Bhavita, be, will be. Pratit, will recognize. Audhaliki, Aruni is the name of Nachiketa's father. Mat, from me. Prasrishtah, released, sent away. Sukham, peacefully. Ratri is nights. Shayata is sleep. The bed is called Shaya in Hindi. Veet Manyu, free from anger. Thwam, you. Drishivan, when he sees. Mrityu Mukhat, from the jaws of death. Pramuktam, freed. So let's read it together. So the verse translates to Lord Yam granting the boon says, after seeing you released from the jaws of death, your father, Adalaki Aruni, will recognize you and be towards you as he was before you left. He will be free from anger and he will sleep peacefully at night for the rest of his life. So let's read it together. Yatha purastat bhavita pratit औदालिकी आरुणि मथ प्रसृष्टः सुखम रात्रि शयता वीतमन्यु त्वाम दृश्यवान मृत्यु मुखात प्रमुक्त प्रमुक्तम. So, simple verse, Lord Yam grants the first boon. And of course, we have already set the context for this Upanishad. We must not forget it is not a real occurrence. I mean, so this did not happen. Like the events of the Bhagavad Gita actually took place. So, this is a story. Of course, in reality, one cannot return from the dead. The first boon being granted, Nachiketa now moves on to the second boon. And verse number 12, uh, I'll read. Swarge loke na bhayam kinchan asti, na tatritvam, na jarya bibheti, ubhe titarva ashanaya pipase, shokatigo modate swarg loke. So the verse translates to that Nachiketa says that in heaven there is no fear. You are not there, nor is there fear of old age. Having crossed over both hunger and thirst, one is above grief and rejoices in heaven. So let's take this up word by word. Swarg loke, so the lok, which is called Swarg or in heaven. Na bhayam, bhayam is fear, so na bhayam becomes no fear. Kinchan, whatsoever. Asti, there is. Na is not. Tatra, there. Tvam, you are. Na nor. So you are here is talking about death. He's talking because Nachiketa, this is a samvad between Nachiketa and god of death. So he says, you are also not there. Na is nor. Jarya is old age. Old age. Bibheti, they fear. Ubhe is both. Titarva, having crossed over. Ashanaya, hunger. Pipase, thirst. Shoka tigo is above grief. Modate, so you are always rejoicing. Swarg loke, in heaven. So, in heaven there is no fear. You are not there, nor is there fear of old age. Having crossed over both hunger and thirst, one is above grief and rejoices in heaven. So let's read it together. Swarg loke na bhayam kinchan asti, na tatra tvam na jaraya bibheti, ubhe titarva ashanaya pipase, shokatigo modate swarg loke. So now Nachiketa moves on to the second boon, which is going to be a slightly more difficult request. So this verse and the next actually cover his uh, second boon. So, and we can see where he is going. So, Nachiketa here is saying that he has heard of this heavenly world where there is no fear. Firstly, first and foremost, Lord Yam, you are not there, or death is not there. Now, this means that, in our mortal world, death is the only truth, is the only certain event that will take place in all our lives. And typically, it comes with decay. So, when Nachiketa is saying that you are not there or death is not there, there is no fear of death. And also, as we age, this is one thing that we start fearing. Absence of death, of course, also implies absence of decay, which is again another thing. As we grow older, we are worried about our health. So, there is no fear because you are not there. Secondly, again, a very relevant point in that realm, souls have crossed over hunger and thirst or have overcome hunger and thirst. That means they don't feel hungry and they don't feel thirsty. So if we look at our bodily, at a gross body, these are the two things which really affect us: hunger and thirst. Any of this, and we are not able to actually function. So those souls, the souls in heaven, have overcome thirst and hunger. That means they don't feel hungry and thirsty. So they're not tormented by these two physical constraints. So by and large, they are free from sorrow, grief, old age, and death. Okay, so these are all the sorrows or things which give us grief or trouble us. So, when one is freed from sorrow, grief, old age, and death, as are the residents of heaven, they are in state of perpetual rejoicing. And Nachiketa continues, verse number 13. Satvam agnim swargayam adheshi mrityo प्रब्रूहि त्वं श्रद्धानाय महयम् स्वर्गलोका अमृतत्वं भजन्तः एतत् द्वितीयेन वृणे वरेण. So the verse translates to Nachiketa continues, O death, please explain to me who is eager to know and full of faith of the fire sacrifice which you know well that leads to heaven, Swarglok, where the souls residing attain immortality. I choose this as my second boon. So let's read together. Swatvam agnim swargayam adheshi mrityev prabruhi tvam shraddhanaya mayam swargaloka amritatvam bhajantah etat dvitiyen vrine varen. So Nachiketa concludes the boon and he says, I want to know the fire sacrifice. So Agnim here is referring to the god, fire god. Okay, so he wants to know of the sacrifice that is offered to the fire by which one is able to reach the Swarglok. Essentially, he's asking for the method of reaching Swarglok, the realm where there is no fear, there is no death, old age, thirst, anger. So all the bodily pain is gone and there's no death, there's no decay. The realm where there's no fear and where one attains immortality. So the boon as such is very simple and we are able to relate, but I'm taking this up in slightly more detail for the people who have read the Bhagavad Gita. We are using three terms which are coming out here. So one is yajna or sacrifice, Swarglok, heaven, and immortality, moksha. So I thought I'll just take them up in slight amount of detail from what we have been reading in the Bhagavad Gita and the Ish Upanishad. First, let's discuss yagya. Yajna or yagya is the capacity, it's translated to also sacrifice. So it's the capacity to sacrifice. Now, the sacrifice is the action or action of sacrifice done in the spirit of service towards a higher goal, a common cause. So, when we talk of a common goal, this we have done in detail in the Bhagavad Gita chapters 3, 4, 5. So, when we work towards a common goal, it means the act is selfless. And what are we doing? We are maintaining a balance within ourselves and refraining from mental and physical indulgences, or we are practicing tapaha or austerity or self-control. Okay. And tapaha is also the fire which is generated within us. So to that extent, we can relate it to the fire sacrifice that we are talking about here. Okay. And we read how it is only through yajna, through actions that we perform in the spirit of service and sacrifice, that we can purify ourselves. Purify ourselves means reduce our desires, sublimate our vasanas, and not create new desires. So when we work towards a goal, the goal can be a limited goal. That means it can be a worldly goal. So you can work towards the your community, your country, the world, So it can be a worldly goal, or it can be the absolute goal, which is attainment of that pure consciousness, Paramatman, God, Brahman, they're all synonyms. And the detailed uh, yajnas, the 12 yajnas, we had covered how anything input that enters us, till the time it is internalized and reacted upon within the system, and we produce uh, a suitable action into the world. So, from the time we consume till the time we take out, the whole 12 yajanas were covered. And this was verses 25 to 35 of chapter 4 of the Bhagavad Gita. So, it is only through service and sacrifice towards a higher non selfish goal that we become free from attachment. Attachment is becoming free from attachment is very important, because then the actions don't taint us, then they don't stick to us. That means they don't generate new desires and new vasanas. So when I want to buy a sari, I go out and buy a sari, but seeing the shop and 10 floors at the shop, I generate the vasana or the desire for maybe acquiring another one of this kind and another one of that kind. So the desire that I went with, which was buy one sari, has been actually met. But in the process, I have generated a desire for 10 more saris. Right? So it's not sublimated, it's not gone. Now I have built more desires. So this is this action of mine. Buying the sari has tainted me, has corrupted me. It has generated 10 more desires. Right? So this is what we had discussed in detail. However, if I go buy a sari and come out of the shop happy, that means the vasana, the desire is met, and I'm not generated any new desire. So my vasana for a sari has been sublimated. A very gross example. We can think about it in more subtler manners. And this is exactly what Ish Upanishad verse number 2 says, that kurvanevehe karmani jiji vishechatam sama evam tvai nanethetosti na karm lipyate nare. Lipyate is the taint. Okay, so it means that remembering that God, one should act and hope, wish to live for 100 years in the world. Other than this, there is no other way that your actions will taint you, right? And which, remembering that God was covered in verse number 1 of the Ishopanishad, which pervades everything which we see around us, moving, non moving, and how we should enjoy everything but not have greed towards whatever we are enjoying, because whose wealth is it anyway? So, this is exactly what was being said there. Bhagavad Gita is saying the same thing. Specifically, of course, Bhagavad Gita is more elaborate, but I will like to quote the translation of verse number 9 of chapter 3, that this world is bound by action other than those performed for the sake of yajna. O Kanteya, perform action for that sake, free from attachment. So we have analyzed this till kingdom come while we were reading the Bhagavad Gita, that we have to exhaust our vasanas. And once we exhaust our vasanas, the entire action is dissolved. It does not taint us. And once we start dissolving our actions, or, sublimating our vasanas through yajnas, the yajna, the sacrifice, becomes a stepping stone towards immortality, which is what we call moksha. So now we come also, when we come to Swarglok, before that we should talk about just the law of karma, the cycle of birth and death. So cycle of birth and death, we've done all this in Bhagavad Gita in great detail. So according to the law of karma, all our deeds up to the current birth determine our next birth. Now, but why do we need the next birth? So as in this world there is decay and death, right? So when our body starts decaying, that means our sense organs are not able to, are becoming, are decaying. I mean, so I'm not able to see the way I could when I was 20 years of age, I cannot taste that much. So we are not able to fulfill our desires through this body. And we have a baggage of desires, which has to be sublimated because that is the condition for attaining moksha. So, what do we need to change? We need to change our body. We need to take a better, a younger body. So, at the what is death? It's when we leave this body, the gross body, and we take another gross body to fulfill our baggage of vasanas, which goes from with us as we change our body. And the law of karma says that we go to different lokas based on our karma to exhaust our remaining vasanas. Now, lok is a word. The literal translation is world. So the word lok refers to world, planet, a plane, or a realm of existence, and even the mental state that one experiences. So at times we feel that I'm in a heavenly state right here, right now. So maybe you smell something divine or you taste something divine and you feel, okay, wow, this is it. This is, I don't need anything more. So that is also heaven. Maybe it's very, very fleeting. Now, in our scriptures, in the Indian tradition, the three main classification of the loks are the Patal Lok, Mrityu Lok, and the Dev Lok. And now, because the verse is talking about Swarg Lok, so I just wanted to highlight in Dev Lok consists of the Swarg Lok, which is the realm of Lord Indra and other gods. And here there is no hunger, thirst, and old age, which is what the verse mentioned. And then Brahmalok is a higher realm in the Devlok, which is the planet of God Brahma, who the creator. So it is considered superior and to Swarglok, and it is full of immortal energy, knowledge, and bliss. So it's the highest planet in the material creation. Right? So this is the context I thought we'll just revise. We had covered this earlier. And then the third thing, which will come out actually, so since we are revising, I thought I'll take it up here itself. When we talked about the microcosmic and the macrocosmic cycles of creation and dissolution, which we did in chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So, yeah, Monica, yeah, it's okay, no worries. So, then so our birth and death we've already covered. Now the entire creation is it comes into existence from the unmanifest. It starts manifesting itself, and then at the time of dissolution it goes back into unmanifest, and this continues endlessly since time immemorial. This has been happening and it will continue. And Lord Brahma is a creator on God's behalf, but he also has finite existence. So he exists till the time the entire universe is under creation. And so we had talked about this in detail, the cycles of Kalp and Pralay, which was one day in the life, one day of Brahma. So that was 432 crore terrestrial years, and then one night of Brahma, which is again 432 crore terrestrial years. So, or 8.64 billion years. So, that is just one day of Brahma. And the entire creation ends when Brahma's life ends. So, that is, if you can do the maths, you will come to a figure of 311 trillion human years, after which the universe dissolves, and subsequently after a gap, a period of time, it comes into creation again. It's created again. The idea behind this stupendous number, 311 trillion years or 8.64 billion years, the point is these numbers are beyond our comprehension, but they are finite. If we keep counting, we will reach that figure of 311 trillion years. So, however huge it may be, so for a person who is, let's say, earning 1,000 or 100 rupees in a day, if someone says that, okay, I earn a crore in a day. The guy might be slightly flummoxed. Okay, I mean, how many zeros do I add here? So this figure is something like that. So, so beyond comprehension. But the point is that even that 1 crore is countable, it's finite. And when we compare the data, we will realize how insignificant our terrestrial years are. So, and we also understand the futility of getting attached to this frivolous world. Okay, so we talked about these death, birth, and death, and we talked about the macrocosmic and the microcosmic cycle of creation and dissolution. Beyond all this is moksha, and that we have discussed is the ultimate goal for the human soul. So none of these cycles, birth and death, and none of these affect us. So we are beyond these. So now, why I thought I'll discuss here, because there is an ambiguity here in the verse. If you are following it carefully, Nachiketa is talking about immortality. He's saying that in Swarglok, people attain immortality, right? So maybe what he means to say is that in Swarglok, where we have no physical hindrances, all the grief and sorrow is gone, and we are in a state of bliss, we are better equipped to attain immortality. That's why I thought I'll just bring out this point, and this ambiguity which is there will also be clarified later in the subsequent verses that we go on with. So that is why I took some time here. And let's move on to verse number 14. So Lord Yama says, Prate bravimi tat ume nibodh स्वर्गयम अग्निम नचिकेता प्रजानन अनंत लोकाप्तम अथो प्रतिष्ठाम विद्धि त्वम एतम निहितम गुह्याम. So the verse translates to Lord Yam starts speaking, and he says, well knowing this fire sacrifice that leads to heaven, I will explain it to you, O Nachiketa. Listen to me. Know this fire sacrifice to be the means of attaining heaven. It is the support of eternal happiness that is hidden in the hearts of the wise. So let's take this up word by word. Pravel, te to you. Bravimi, I will explain, I will narrate, I will tell. Tat that, u verily, may from me, nibodh, you learn well. Swargayam leads to heaven. Agnim, Agnim, wherever is coming in these set of verses, refers to the fire sacrifice. Nachiketa, Nachiketa's name. Prajanan, well knowing. Anant Lokaptam. So, a way to attain that eternal, Anant, eternal lok or eternal heaven, Atho and Pratishtham, support of eternal happiness. With him, no. Twam you, etam this, nihitam, seated, guhyam, guhayam, in the heart of the learned, or the secret within the heart of people, the wise people. So this is what the verse is translating to. Lord Yama says that, well knowing this fire sacrifice that leads to heaven, I will explain it to you, O Nachiketa. Listen to me. Know this fire sacrifice to be the means of attaining heaven. It is the support of eternal happiness that is hidden in the hearts of the wise. So let's read it together. Prate bravimi tat ume nibodh swargayam agnim nachiketah prajanan anant lokaptim atho pratishtham vidhi tvam etam nihitam goyam. So Lord Yam is, of course, happy to have a genuine seeker who is asking deep queries, is alert and seeking with devotion, and therefore he gladly agrees to pass on the knowledge to young Nachiketa. So, and he continues saying, verse number 15, लोकादिम अग्निम तम उवाच तस्मै या इष्टिका यावती वा यथवा वा सह च अपि तत् प्रत्यवदत् यथोक्तम् अथ अस्य मृत्यु पुनः एव आहु तुष्टः. So the verse translates to Lord Yam then told Nachiketa about the fire sacrifice, which is the basis of attaining heaven, Swarglok, and the kind of bricks and how many and their arrangement for the sacrifice, sacrificial fire for Agni, Dev. And Nachiketa too repeated all this as Lord Yam had told him. And Lord Yam is happy with Nachiketa. And so spoke again in the next verse. That is where we'll go. So let's take this up word by word, this verse. Lokadim, the source of the world. Agnim is always the fire sacrifice in these set of verses. Tam, that. Uvach said, Tasme, to him, to Nachiketa. Ya, what kind? Ishtaka. Now this translates to bricks. And we'll take this up in the discussion. Yavati, how many? Va, and Yathva, and how. To be arranged. Sa, he, cha, and api also. Tat, that. Pratyavadat, repeated. Yathoktam, as explained. Atso, asya, with this. Mrityu is is always Yama's name here in this Upanishad at many places. So Mrityu is Lord of Death. Punha, again, Ev, even. Ah, said, Tushtah, being pleased. So Lord Yama then explained the fire sacrifice, which is the basis of attaining heaven. He spoke of what kind of bricks, how many, and how to be arranged for the sacrificial fire. Nachiketa too repeated all this as Lord Yam had told him. Lord Yam, being pleased, spoke again. So let's just read it together. We've read it together, or we need to read it again? Okay. So shall I continue with the explanation now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So the fire sacrifice, the knowledge of the fire sacrifice, Lord Yama gives to Nachiketa. We've already covered sacrifice earlier when we were talking about the previous verse. Now, in the verse, the sacrifice here, now these are some interpretations actually. Um, so please bear that in mind. The sacrifice referred to here does not seem to have it does not have a material goal. Actually, Nachiketa is asking for heaven, how the way to reach heaven, right? So therefore, the goal is not material. Therefore, most probably, we are not talking about material offerings. The object is non-material, but at the same time, object is non-material, that means we want to go to heaven, but it is being referred to as being everywhere and inside us as well. See, the previous verse mentioned nihitam, seated, guhayam, in the hearts of the learned. So it is surrounding us and it is within us. So the bricks that we are talking about are actually not physical bricks or physical constructs, but they are non material constructs. They could be emotional constructs, they could be intellectual constructs, they could be spiritual constructs. So the bricks here are actually talking about the mental and intellectual disciplines, thought processes, adjustments of our personality or our consciousness, and the process of deconditioning ourselves so that the world does not affect us or we are not conditioned, our conditioning of the world goes away, right? So the important point to understand is that the bricks are not material substances weighing in so many thousand kilograms or 10 kilograms. No, They are constructs or bricks of consciousness or constructs of consciousness. So we have to approach these set of verses from that point of view. And Nachiketa is a keen seeker and alert student. He repeats whatever he has learned from Lord Yam. So it's like when you ask a question, the person who is listening to you will should always actually verify that this is what I understand. Am I right? So the communication is completed. And if there is any gap, that can be covered by the person who's giving the information. Lord Yam is happy with what Nachiketa has repeated. So he's happy with this sharp student and continues. And we come to the last verse for the day. I will read. Tam abravit priyaman mahatma varam tav ihi adaya dadami bhuya tavev namana bhavitah ayam agni srilanka cha imam anek rupam krihan. So the verse translates to great soul death. Being extremely pleased with Nachiketa, Nachiketa's repetition of the knowledge that was transmitted to him, tells Nachiketa, I will now grant you another boon. This fire sacrifice shall be named after you. Also, take this necklace of many forms from me. So let's take this up word by word. Tam, him, Nachiketa. Abravit said, Priyaman, being delighted. Mahatma is a great soul. Mahanatma, a great soul. Varam, boon. Tav, to you. Ihi, here. This, or this. Adaya, now. Dadami, I grant or I give. Bhuya, in addition. Tavev, after you. Namana, named. Bhavita shall be. I am this Agni, fire sacrifice. Sridankam, necklace. Cha, and Imam, these. Anek rupam. Rupam. That means various forms. Grihan, take. So, the Mahanatma or great soul death, being extremely pleased with Nachiketa's repetition of the knowledge transmitted, tells Nachiketa, I now grant you another boon. This fire sacrifice shall from now on be named after you. Also take this necklace of many forms from me. So let's read together. Tam abravit priyaman mahatma varam tav ih adaya dadami bhuya tavev namana bhavitah ayam agni sidankam cha imam anek rupam grihan. So Yam is extremely pleased with his disciple Nachiketa and gives one another additional boon or the fourth boon out of sheer joy. And he says that from now on, this fire sacrifice or this method of reaching the Swarglok will be named after you. And he also offers his garland of various forms to Nachiketa. So one wonders, what is this garland? It would obviously be very valuable. I mean, so that he's giving it to Nachiketa, with whom he is extremely pleased. And he mentions that of various forms. So this would be a very valuable garland that would be capable of taking up various shapes and forms. The Upanishad unfortunately does not tell us more about this garland, but we can understand that it would be almost like a magical garland. And then he goes on to talk about the details of the fire sacrifice, which will be covered in the next two verses, and that we will do next time. So, with this, we end our today's session.